High intensity interval training is often promoted for its numerous health benefits, but should women in perimenopause avoid it? There's so many conflicting opinions out there that it's crucial to understand the unique benefits, but also the potential drawbacks that HIIT can have for women over 40, especially during perimenopause. Hello, I am Sara Preston, an integrative health practitioner, menopause and fat loss coach, and I am dedicated to helping women who are over 40 to thrive into menopause, not just survive. So I do that by offering practical, evidence-based advice and personalized support to guide you. So before we discuss the potential risks of HIIT, let's talk about some of the benefits. I'm going to share with you at the end the best form of HIIT that takes just 10 minutes. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Okay, so the first benefit of HIIT is that it really helps with fat burning. And a lot of women are really trying to burn fat, especially belly fat. It can help you with that visceral fat. Visceral is that deep belly fat that is not just below the skin, but really it can be around your organs. It can be very dangerous actually to your health. And doing HIIT, high intensity interval training, can help with that. So there was actually a recent study that showed women with type 2 diabetes who did HIIT for 2 times a week had a 24% decrease in their visceral fat compared to those who just did moderate activity. So HIIT is really going to help with that visceral fat burning. Another thing that it helps with is insulin sensitivity, which as we get into perimenopause, we have trouble with insulin a lot of times. We do end up being more insulin resistant, which can also lead to weight gain. And so it really helps us have lower fasting blood sugar, and it helps us with our insulin sensitivity, which can be so much harder at this stage of life. So the third thing that it helps with is human growth hormone, anti-aging. Helps us to have more human growth hormone, HGH, and some more testosterone too, which can help us to build muscle. And if you followed me for any period of time, you know how important it is that we put on muscle. So as we move into menopause, we start to lose muscle every year. And so we have to work hard to build and maintain it. And if we're doing other forms of cardio, we are probably eating away a little bit at that muscle. Whereas if you stick to the HIIT, it can actually help you with muscle mass. It can also help you with your cortisol response. So that might sound a little, counterintuitive to what you have heard. So let's talk about who should not be doing HIIT. And that is somebody who has a very high stress level. So when we go through perimenopause, we have stressors in our life. Our body doesn't handle stress as well in perimenopause. So we have to really pay attention to these stressors on our bodies. That can be fasting, that can be not eating enough food, that can be dealing with aging parents and some of their concerns. Maybe you're helping them, or just the mental anguish of some things with your teenagers or your aging parents. We're often at the height of our career, or we have very busy jobs that require a lot from us and sometimes can be stressful. We are often very busy with our kids at this stage of life as well. So all of these things are stressors on our body. If you have too much stress going on in your life, you want to be careful about how much HIIT you're doing. It kind of goes hand in hand with cortisol. You've heard a lot about cortisol. It's kind of a buzzword lately, but cortisol being raised for chronic periods of time can cause you to gain weight. It can cause a lot of other issues with your energy and your sleep and your ability to build muscle. So we want to be careful that our cortisol isn't raised for too long. And that is why I suggest doing short HIIT. So what is HIIT? What's an example of HIIT? There's different forms of HIIT. One is to do interval type training, and that can be getting your heart rate up to 80% of your max heart rate for up to a minute and then resting for about 40 seconds. And you do this over and over again. And so these are moves like burpees. It could be box jumps. It could be squat jumps. It could be riding a bike. There's any way that you can really get your heart rate up to that 80% of max and then take a rest. So the key is that you're taking the rest in between. So they are intervals. They're high intensity. You're going hard, but then they are intervals. Then you're taking the rest too. So that's one example of HIIT. You'll see, HIIT videos. You want to keep it short though. You want it to be 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. You don't want to go to these Orange Theory classes for an hour where you're just burning 800 calories. You are just really stressing your body and you're going hard the whole time. Distance running would not be considered HIIT, all right? You wanna take those breaks. You wanna go really hard as you possibly can and then take a break. And you can't go as hard as you need to go if you're not taking enough rest in between. So the key there is that you are going hard because we want that stimulus. We want that stimulus so that we can have that metabolic change, so we can see body composition changes, so we can have these benefits that I talked about earlier. You've got to go hard. You've got to get away from that gray area that many cardio classes and modalities will have you in. So it's that gray area where it's not really that hard, but it's not easy. So it's kind of middle of the road, like, okay, that's sort of hard, but you want to be going as hard as you possibly can and then resting enough until you're ready to go hard again. So that's really the key with HIIT. And the reason why it can help with that visceral fat is that visceral fat has 4 times the cortisol receptors than regular fat. So it triggers cortisol production. Visceral fat triggers cortisol production, and that triggers belly fat storage. So we want to make sure that we are not raising our cortisol for too long of time. And the great thing about HIIT is that it's not going to be chronically raised and cause that issue. So you still get all of the benefits of fat burning, insulin sensitivity, human growth hormone, raising testosterone, cardiovascular health. You get all of these without the chronically high cortisol, without it being raised for too long. So my favorite form of HIIT that takes just 10 minutes are sprints, sprint interval training. We call it SIT instead of HIIT. So sprint interval training can be 10 minutes. Of course, you want to warm up before so that your body's nice and warm, take a walk, something like that. But then you're just going to do 6 to 8 sprints. And those are going to be all out, 85 to 90% of your max heart rate for 20 to 30 seconds. Then you're going to rest for a minute. Then you're going to do it again, 20 to 30 seconds as fast as you can, and then rest. You really want to get that stimulus that estrogen used to provide for us before it started declining in perimenopause. So when we had the height of our hormones with estrogen, we had that stimulus that we needed to counteract that visceral belly fat, but we don't have that as we age. So we need to do these sprint interval trainings or HIIT. So I like to do sprint interval trainings. You can run, you can do it on a bike, you can jump rope, anything that gets you to 85 to 90% of your max heart rate. What is max heart rate? Max heart rate is 220 minus your age. So 220 minus your age. That's your max heart rate, okay? And then you want to get to 85 to 90% of that. I use my watch. You can take your heart rate, just like this. However you want to do it, you want to get that heart rate high, and then you want it to come back down so that you have, the energy to be able to go as hard as you can again the next time. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, leave me a comment and let me know, or if you have any questions. And I would love for you to also check out my HIIT workout that I have right here on YouTube.